So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. And I appreciate that you're all very busy, and I appreciate you coming out this evening to hear one of the candidates. We don't know at this stage how many candidates there will actually be. The first thing I want to say is that we're all Labour Party members. The question on the lips of every member of the Scottish Labour Party at the moment is who is going to be the next leader. I have to tell you that the answer on the lips of everyone else in Scotland who's not a member of the party is, who cares? We haven't said anything to the Scottish public for years that they are remotely interested in hearing, which is one of the reasons that we lost so badly back in May. I don't want to spend too long talking about the reasons that we lost. I think most of us here would probably agree with some of the fundamental reasons. There is a consensus developed, I think, about what went wrong. But it's probably worth just going back over a couple of them because they are relevant to how we conduct this leadership election and the outcome, and crucially, between now and the 2016 elections. Bear in mind that the reason the public don't really show much interest in who's going to be leader of the Scottish Labour Party, I say the next leader, actually the first leader, as Jamie says, it's the first time we'll actually have a leader of the whole Scottish Party, is because they don't see the Labour Party as saying anything relevant to them in their lives at the moment. What we have to do during this campaign and for the next 4 years is win the argument, not just about who becomes leader of the Scottish Labour Party, which actually is not that relevant. What we have to do is win the argument about who should be the next First Minister. For those of you on new media, you'll have noticed that I changed my profile. Not only my Twitter name from Tom Harris MP to Tom for Scotland, but also the description. I'm not campaigning to be the next leader of the Scottish Labour Party. I am campaigning to be Labour's next candidate for First Minister. And when it comes to the ballot paper, it is not enough for us as Labour Party members to choose the candidate with whom we agree the most, whose politics coincide most with our own. It is our duty to Scotland and to the United Kingdom, and thirdly, to the Labour Party, to choose someone that we think will inspire confidence in the broad Scottish electorate. Who will the Scottish voters choose as their next First Minister? Not who will we choose as our Scottish leader, because the Labour Party doesn't matter as much as the future of Scotland and the future of Scotland within the Union. And that has to be the basis of our debate over the next few months. We lost for a number of reasons. As I say, you're all familiar with them. Essentially, the SNP have a vision and they have a conviction and they know what they're about. Many of the people who voted for the SNP in May don't actually agree with independence, but they recognise a vision when they could see one. And we didn't have a vision. Our vision can probably be summed up along the lines of send everyone who carries a knife to jail. That's not a vision. It's not even much of a policy. The SNP's vision was positive, it was bright, it was optimistic. And we need to do the same. Crucially, we need to do the same for the 2016 election and not fight the next election as if it was 2011 again. We've got to be one step ahead of the opposition instead of fighting battles that we've already lost. In 1999, the Labour Party delivered devolution. I mean, let's remember that Salmond disparaged that altogether. He said Labour Party could never deliver devolution. He said, you know, Labour Party couldn't deliver a pizza, let alone devolution. And we proved him wrong. But our crucial mistake was we delivered devolution in 1999, and as a party, as a movement, we thought, well, that's it, job done. We can relax now. And we took our eye off the ball because devolution was never intended to be an end in itself. Neither was it intended strictly, I think, to be a process, because processes always lead you to a particular destination one day. Devolution, in my view, was always supposed to be a self-renewing process that was always anticipating what the needs of the Scottish people were and adapting to those needs. But in 1999, we just thought, well, that's our job over with. We can go and concentrate on other things. And meanwhile, the SNP, well, we all know what the SNP did. You've been living in a constituency represented by SNP MPs and MSPs for, well, since 1994. They understood how Civic Scotland was operating, was thinking. They engaged with Civic Scotland, and they were unremittingly positive in public, very rarely positive in private. But the public face was always very positive vision about Scotland, and anyone who dared to disagree, anyone who said that Scotland would be better off within the Union was dismissed and slandered as someone who was dismissive of Scotland, as negative about Scotland. We were accused, we are still being accused, those of us who believe in the Union are still being accused of saying, oh, Scotland is too poor, too wee to survive an independent Scotland. That's never been the case. We must remember that the Labour Party in Scotland is just as Scottish as the SNP. That we have nothing to apologise for or be defensive about in terms of our Scottishness, but we have once again allowed the SNP to put us on the defensive. So how can we articulate a vision for Scotland that will carry us to victory at the 2016 election? And I'm talking about victory. It's not enough for us to talk about, recovering some lost ground over the next few years. It is absolutely essential that on the other side of the 2016 election, we have a Labour First Minister leading a Labour-led government at Holyrood, and that is what we have to aim for. What should our vision be? Let's start in first principles. What is the Labour Party for? The Labour Party was established and exists today to do what it has always done, to represent the working people of this country. I don't know what your experience is on the doorstep here in Perthshire. In Glasgow, year after year, you go to doors of people who feel that politicians are only remotely interested in working people for the taxes that they provide to the Exchequer. And beyond that, we don't really care. We're focused on other things. Now, I actually believe that the poorest, the most vulnerable people in society, the people who are long-term unemployed, those who have become dependent on benefits for one reason or another, those people will always be looked after by a Labour Party more than any other party. It's in our DNA. No other party will move heaven and earth to make sure those people are protected. But the Labour Party has never been defined by those people, by the most vulnerable. The Labour Party has always been defined as the voice of the working people. That's what the trade union movement was there for, and that's what the Labour Party is there for. And we as a party have to articulate some kind of vision to make sure that the working people of this country, and ultimately the people who will decide what the next election result will be, that we are there for them, that we understand their concerns, and that we don't just value them for the taxes they can provide to the Exchequer. It is very, very important that when we talk about a future Scotland, we see devolution as a means to an end, not as an end in itself. The SNP saw devolution as a means to an end, I suppose, in one way, because they saw it as a stepping stone to independence. They see everything through the prism of the Scottish Constitution. How wonderful would it be to have a Scottish government that actually focused wholly on the Scottish people instead of the Scottish Constitution? They see every policy, whether it's housing or education, transport, they see those as means to an end to create a culture that's going to favour independence. We see those things, transport, housing, education, as an end to them in themselves. That excellence in education, more affordable homes, those are ends in themselves, whereas the SNP see those things as simply a way of levering people's expectations and pushing them in a particular direction in terms of the Constitution. Now, I didn't come into the Labour Party, and I'm sure none of you did, to save the Union. We came in here for the same reasons, which is, to fight inequality, to fight poverty, to promote prosperity for as many people as possible, for the many, not the few, as it says in the back of our membership cards. We didn't come to save the Union, but neither did we come in to see the Union dissolved for purely political and opportunistic and, frankly, make-believe fantasy reasons. We need to understand the aspirations of the Scottish public. We need to understand what's important to them. Whatever the result in May, it didn't mean that the vast majority of Scottish people want independence. I don't think it said a great deal about how they feel about the Constitution, but what it did say is that they think the Labour Party has failed them because they don't believe we have given them a reason to vote Labour. That is a shocking indictment. If we don't change, this is such a crucial moment for the Labour Party's history in Scotland. If we don't change, if we don't learn these lessons, we will not be a fighting force in 2016. It won't be a question of can the Labour Party win. It will be a question of can the Labour Party survive these next elections. That's what we're fighting for. And if the Labour Party doesn't survive, I have great fears for our country and for the United Kingdom. That's the pitch. The pitch is things have never been so serious. We cannot afford the business as usual agenda. Something dramatic has to happen in the Scottish Labour Party. We have to get people's attention. We have to do something radical, and we have to lead the Scottish people while at the same time performing that terrifically difficult task of listening to them at the same time. We haven't been doing that for 12 years in Scotland. That is our fault. Nobody else is to blame. The electorate are never wrong. They weren't wrong in May when they kicked us out, or well, when they kept us out, and reduced the number of first-past-the-post seats that we won to 15. That is a shocking indictment. We won 53 first-past-the-post seats in 1999. We won 15 this year. That is our fault. It's not the public's fault. And we have to listen to them, and we have to understand what they're saying. At the same time, holding on to our founding values. Now, am I the leader? Am I the person to be able to do that? I think I am. I've got a big task in front of me. I need to convince people like you. I need to convince parliamentarians. But let's start now, and I'll be really interested to hear your questions and your views on the task ahead. Thank you.